Hey, how's it going, guys? So tonight I'm kind of going to go over some of my top picks for Week 1 at each position group in DraftKings, and then I'm also going to do a best ball draft for the Pomeranian 4 on Underdog Fantasy. So this will probably be my last best ball draft before the season actually begins. We're just over a week out from the start of the NFL season, so this will probably be my last best ball, probably my last little series for videos for DraftKings and picks. I might do like some fades for Week 1. And I may also do some value picks for low ownership players as the season gets closer. But we're going to start off with a best ball draft on Underdog Fantasy, and then I'll get into the top picks for DraftKings for Week 1. So the Pomeranian 4, they just released this contest. Not even, I think they might have released it on Saturday. So it's already filled at 82%. So let's go ahead, get in while we can. So this is the first time I've done a underdog draft on stream in a while. So there's going to be a bunch of different players that have shot up in rankings. There's also been a lot of news that has come out since the last few drafts that we've done, since the last few videos that I've done. Obviously, sad to hear about Brian Robinson getting shot during a carjacking. He was one of the players I was really focusing on this year to make a big impact for that Washington offense, beating out Antonio Gibson. But with that happening, obviously Antonio Gibson looks like he's going to be picking up a big share of carries going into the season, or at least in the beginning of the season, possibly an uptick in shares for J.D. McKissick as well, catching passes out of the backfield until Brian Robinson gets back, if he comes back this season, which it looks like he will be. The injuries he sustained during the robbery attempt were life-threatening. He's already on his way to recovery, so which is good to hear. It's just highly, highly unfortunate for a rookie like that to basically be hours away from being named the Week 1 starter to having that taken away from you immediately. So best wishes to him as he heads into Week 1. So we're drafting from the 4 spot here. If you watched any of the previous videos that I've posted, obviously I'm fading Cooper Kupp. So Austin Eckler, massive value with catching passes out of the backfield this season. Obviously a really good offense, strong offense. Think he's going to have great value in the backfield for Los Angeles Chargers. That's a bit of a reach, but I like that pick. I definitely like him over Deebo Samuel and Mike Evans. And when I was going over my picks for my top picks for Week 1, I don't think I mentioned Trey Lance. I don't think I had him in there. I think I'd started a list for doing Week 1 fades. I think Trey Lance was in there, even more so now because of Jimmy G being basically re-signed or being kept on by the 49ers. I don't think it'll have a major effect early on in the season, but if Trey Lance starts accumulating a bunch of losses, I definitely think that they'll basically pull him a whole lot quicker rather than if Jimmy Garoppolo had actually departed. But but I also think the way they restructured his contract, it gives Jimmy a little bit more of a say and a little bit easier for him to be dealt to another team during the season in case there's an injury. Possibly Cleveland if Jacoby doesn't pan out, but who knows. All right, it looks like Aaron Jones isn't going to be there by the time it comes back around to us, so looks like Mark Andrews is going to be our guy unless we get sniped. All right, Tyreek Hill. So Andrews did make it to us. I definitely think going tight end early has its advantages. Obviously, I wouldn't reach for him just because of the opportunity cost that come with picking a tight end this early. All right. So we're coming up on the 28th pick. I definitely like T. Higgins at that spot. I doubt he makes it, but nonetheless, I would really like that pick. He picked Pittman over T. Wow. Let's go. Someone posted, I think a fella at the Fantasy Cure. He's on TikTok and he's on YouTube as well. If you want to check him out, he had a post on TikTok talking about Jamar Chase, and I had commented on there that I think T. Higgins will actually have the bigger fantasy season this year than Jamar Chase. Now, obviously, that's kind of going against the grain of what everybody else is thinking, but I don't know. I feel like T. Higgins is right on the edge of having a huge breakout season. So, and a lot of people are going to be focusing on Jamar, making sure he doesn't get downfield. So with that emphasis being put on Jamar for defenses, definitely leaves opportunity out there for T and possibly Tyler Boyd, but we'll see. Let me go ahead. I'll mark Joe Burrow, although I highly doubt we'll get to him. I'll also go ahead and mark Lamar Jackson, Rashad Bateman. Hopefully they make it. We'll see. I'd like to pair up Mark Andrews with his quarterback, but if that doesn't happen, then he definitely has standalone value still. It's kind of awkward drafting from the 5th spot because you don't really want to reach for a top tier quarterback like that, but at that spot you really just have to go for value early on. Another guy that had some news that really helped out is that really is going to shoot up his ADP is Christian Kirk with Laviska Shenault being sent out to Carolina. I didn't see what Jacksonville got for him, but I definitely think that with Shenault leaving, it definitely bodes well for Christian Kirk, Zay Jones, and Marvin Jones to pick up a lot of targets this season as well. And it may even be, that might be an indication that Carolina's basically lost their patience with Terrace Marshall Jr. After the past couple years of lackluster production, basically. How many quarterbacks have gone off the board so far? Just one. So if I take Lamar, I'll probably start a huge trend. But I really could go Juju though. Nope. I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna go ahead and do it. Or try to do it. Go. Okay. I was hoping it wouldn't go on timeout on me. Alright, so we were able to at least get this correlation going with Lamar and Mark Andrews. Now it's just a matter of hoping we get there with Rashad Bateman, which that would be most likely, but not guaranteed, obviously. If someone's actually going on the board here and watching what I'm doing, they'll definitely see that I'm trying to get this correlation going and get the double stack with Rashad. And if someone really wanted to try and mess me up, they can go after him, but we'll see. All right, it took Herbert. And go ahead and mark Marvin Jones if I can. Boom. Okay. Those are the two main pass catchers I'm focusing on. Although Zay Jones has had a pretty good preseason as well, so he could come through mid-season and just kind of overtake that second spot. But after last year, getting that chemistry with Trevor, I'm looking at Marvin Jones still. Oh my gosh. He took him one pick away. Oh, that's a bummer. Wow. Dagger. Okay. That really stinks. Alright. I'm going to go on Raw. I'm trying to stay away from Tampa Bay as much as possible. I just don't believe in Tom Brady right now, obviously. That seems like a super dumb decision, but I think for the first time in his career, he's got more stuff going off the field, and I think that the weight and grind and just honestly the pressure of being an NFL quarterback is getting to him at 45 years old. And to me, it just seems like at some point this guy's got to be human. And I think it's now. Just watching him in that press conference, not only did he just seem uncomfortable, answering those questions, he just seemed like he did not want to be there. And I've seen other analysts kind of have not quite say that for obvious reasons on national television, but he doesn't look the same. Just put it that way. He's not the same kind of assassin when he starts talking about the upcoming season and preparation and everything. He just doesn't seem like that guy right now. I know there was rumors of maybe a divorce and anything like something like that, but which obviously, if that is the case, we shouldn't probably be speculating on it. But when you're basically the greatest quarterback of all time, it's hard not to. Let's look at a board here. I'm also staying away from the Rams running backs too. I think it's going to be too difficult to predict who's going to be the key guy from week to week as far as picking who you think is going to have the most production. And I think Sean McVay, I feel like he's the type of guy that wants to keep a lot of question marks as far as game plan goes. Like, he'll say one thing and do the complete 180 and do the complete opposite of what he's been talking about. Christian Kirk went. I was hoping to get him. I am going after A.J. Dillon if he's there somehow at the 69th pick. Nice. But if he's still there, I'm definitely picking him up. I think you may even see him have a better fantasy season than AJ or Aaron Jones. I think that's highly, highly, highly possible. You better not snipe me. Don't do it. Don't do it. Don't. Oh my God, he did it. I hate that guy. Just kidding. I don't even know him. But that is super frustrating, nonetheless. Alright. I'm going DeAndre Hopkins. Let's look at running backs. See, I hate drafting from the middle of the pack like that, from like that 5th through 7th or 8th pick. It's so hard to correlate lineups from that position. I want to go wide receiver. Renfro or Tony. Let's go Renfro. Did I get him? Yep, okay. That was close. My mouse wasn't working, it wasn't cooperating. I should probably fix this in case for whatever reason I time out. Alright, my next pick is at 93 and 100. 100. One thing I haven't looked at yet or shown is the prize pools. So again, it's not nearly as high as the big dog tournament, but 20,000 at the top, 7,042 for second, 5 for third. Just to be in the pot, you're looking at $4. So, you know, smaller buy-in, smaller prizes, but you know, you just need that one. You just need that one lineup. I'm 95% sure I'm going to go double running back for the next 2 picks. I got sniped by 2 different people. I thought it was the same guy. Got sniped by the guy in front of me and the guy right behind me on the way back. Alright. This is my thought. I'm hoping I'm going to go ahead and pick Rashad Penny. If I can get there. Alright. Rashad Penny. Hopefully he's still there. Devin Singletary's still there. When I come back around at 100. If he is, I'm really, really, really hoping Aaron Rodgers drops to my next pick, I think 117, right? Because if he does, then I'm definitely going after Watkins, Sammy Watkins. Then Romeo Dubes. didn't count. All right, so I'm not picking up Trevor Lawrence without Christian Kirk in any draft. Whether it's season long or best ball, I feel like that's going to be a major point of emphasis if you're thinking you're going to go with Trevor Lawrence or Christian Kirk for that matter. Well, I take that back. Christian Kirk, he can kind of stand alone no matter what. Like he's going to get his share regardless if you have Trevor or not. So like he's definitely, especially in DFS, he's going to have a ton of value as a standalone pick, which I'll go over. I'll go over in my top picks for week 1. All right. So, like I said, what we're hoping for here is that Aaron Rodgers doesn't make it, or that he makes it back to us and no one picks him up. Hopefully they see Matthew Stafford, Dak Prescott, Derek Carr, and just kind of miss out on Rodgers. But again, we'll see. That's what we're hoping for. Thanks for the 2 people who are still on the Twitch stream. Appreciate you guys. Got a lot of Clemson representation right now. T. Higgins, DeAndre Hopkins, Hunter Renfrow. And then if we do get Aaron Rodgers, we'll be going after Sammy Watkins later on in the draft too. So very heavy in the Clemson lineup here. All right, let's take a peek at the draft board. We haven't done that in a minute. You know, I haven't talked about them much in any of the streams or videos or anything, but, you know, just from preseason performances, I'm becoming slightly more of a believer for Steelers. Early on, before the preseason, I was completely fading them. Outside of Najee Harris, I mean, I knew beforehand that George Pickens was a freak. Obviously, there's some, I wouldn't say character issues, but control, the ability to control his emotions. Obviously, we saw what happened not too long ago with him just basically ragdolling a dude in college. But outside of that, I mean, dude's definitely a monster. All right, so we missed out on Rodgers. We need a second quarterback. Let's see what we got left. Still got Trevor. That's tough. I still got Amon-Ra St. Brown. I could go the Detroit Lions route. I just made myself sick just even saying that. But heck, yeah, let's go after him. Is Chark still out there? I don't know. I'm not trying to go to Charleston, not yet. Yeah, I think that'll be our guy that we'll go after. Let's see. Yeah, he'll be there hopefully at that pick. So let's find some value. All right, I'm gonna go Tolbert if I can get down to his name. Did you get it? Yeah. I'm cutting it really close on these picks. So the reason why I paused for a second, I still, specifically for best ball, I think Brian Robinson still holds value, even if he doesn't come back till halfway, which obviously you don't even want to talk about him getting back to the field after something like that's happened to him. But just for the reality of fantasy football, definitely still holds a lot of value at that spot, which I'm curious to see where he drops to, if people are going to still just let him go because of what happened. I'm curious to see how much further he falls beyond his ADP at 126. I'm thinking probably 140, but I could be wrong. For me, it would be the 140, 150 range, which is what, 12th, 13th round. I wasn't exactly psyched about this lineup, but as it's progressed, it's really not looking that bad. I mean, we got a pretty strong running back core right there, and I'm not upset with the pass catchers. Obviously, DeAndre's not going to be playing for a while. All right, so we're going to hope that he's there by the time we get back to him. I'm going to pass up on Robinson still. I'm going to go Darryl Robinson. One of the reasons why, even though I just said, I'm trying to avoid the Rams running backs, one thing that one guy that I do follow and that I do watch content pretty consistently, that he made some good points about, Darrell Henderson, really showing out last year during Akers' absence. I definitely think he made some good points about that. At that spot, with only having 3 running backs at this point, I think it's manageable to pick him up at that spot. We know we're going to try and go DJ Chark the next pick for sure. Want to give a shout out to Fantasy Holics for the support they've given my videos, posting them on their Facebook page. It's definitely helped out and kind of given my videos some exposure to some of their audience, and I've had a couple guys. I think I've had a few subscribe and like the videos on YouTube, and I think I've even had one come in on view on Twitch a couple times too. So thank you guys for the support, and hopefully I can provide some more content and provide some insight on some valuable picks, and help you build some good lineups this season. So again, appreciate you guys. Thank you. Right here, DJ Chark. He's right there. As long as this guy doesn't sweep him up. He's thinking about it. He wants to do it. I can see it. That's a bold strategy, Cotton. Let's see if it pays off for him. All right. So we got DJ Chark, and we have Amon-Ra St. Brown. with the intention to pick up Jared Goff later on in this draft. I also want to say thank you to David Dulac, if that's how you pronounce your name. Don't want to butcher your last name, but one thing I've asked, well, hold on. Again, Hunter Henry for another tight end spot here. But anyway, back to what I was saying. Thank you to David Dulac for the feedback on the YouTube channel. He had mentioned that it's kind of hard to hear me sometimes, or I couldn't tell if he was actually talking about the actual volume in the mic or whether he was just talking about the way I'm talking. But nonetheless, I appreciate the feedback. Obviously, I'm new to this, so any kind of feedback, any way I can try and make this content better, it's greatly appreciated, and it's not just something I take lightly. So thank you to him for that feedback, leaving a comment there. The reason why I'm going away from Gerald Everett, there's just too many other options besides him. This is what it boils down to. 165, 172. Alright, so I'm a believer that Zamir White is going to take over starting position for Las Vegas. I feel like he's just a better athlete than Josh Jacobs, and with the fact that they didn't pick up his last contract year for Josh Jacobs, it just kind of tells you where he stands with the organization. So definitely picking him this late with the hopes that he just takes over at some point, which, as I said, I definitely think is highly possible. I think that might actually pay off pretty well. Who's he have as quarterback? It's pretty good. So you got Trevor Lawrence, James Robinson, Marvin Jones. He's got a single stack, double stack. Oh, I'm on the clock. Crap. Stop talking, Will. All right. Back to what I was talking about. Justin Herbert. He's got Josh Palmer. He wasn't able to get any of the top two receivers, but he does have a pretty good stack with Trevor Lawrence and Marvin Jones. So that's pretty good on his part. Number one pick, Jonathan Taylor. Surprise. I don't know. To me, they're not going to hand off the ball as much as everybody thinks. That's just my opinion. Not to say that he won't have 100 yards every single game he goes out there. I mean, he's that type of freak athlete. But to me, you don't sign Matt Ryan to hand the ball off for, 70% of a game. That's just, if they were going to do that, they would have signed Jimmy Garoppolo, in my opinion. But we shall see. I was just looking at, so on Facebook, someone had posted the news about Jimmy Garoppolo signing one more year, and I just put them simply on there. I just put on there that I thought that was a poor decision on the 49ers' part, especially with the fact that early on they made the decision that they're going to say Trey Lance is our quarterback. As a rookie, I mean, he's basically a rookie this year. Or I guess more accurately, compared to a high school senior enrolling early for a college program. That's kind of how I'm looking at it. But I just put on there that I think it's a poor decision on his part, on 49ers' part, excuse me. Especially with them coming out saying, hey, this is going to be our guy. We're moving on from Jimmy Garoppolo. We're going to let him seek a trade. And then now that no one wants to pay the price tag for him, speaking of Garoppolo, they restructured his contract for 1 year and kind of keep him in the locker room, where guys are going to instinctually just say, when things are going bad, put Jimmy in. And that's the last thing a rookie quarterback needs, or a highly inexperienced second-year quarterback, if you want to get technical. And I'm getting a little bit of pushback on that. A couple guys are giving me flack about it, but I really think that it's a poor decision. Now, granted, the way they restructured his contract, being 1 year, $7 million, it makes it a little bit more feasible for him to be traded rather than having that huge price tag he had before they restructured it. And it also has a no trade clause on there, so Jimmy gets to pick, where he wants to go. So they can't just dump him off to the worst team in the NFL in case an injury happens. So we're at 196. One guy that I've mentioned in previous videos, or in a previous video rather, is Curtis Samuel. I think he's definitely going to be the definitive wide receiver 2 for the Washington offense. The Commanders, still trying to get used to saying that. I definitely think he's going to be the surefire wide receiver 2 for them. I think this is going to be the first year he's been truly healthy, and since he's been with Carolina, or since he's left Carolina, and I think you'll start to see why he can contribute so much, and why I'm so heavy on picking him up in that spot. All right. So I still only got one pass catcher for my top quarterback. I'm looking at Duvernay. And literally as I say his name, he went. Alright. So another guy I mentioned in another video was James Proche, if that's how you pronounce his name. If not, correct me in the comments or chat. But I'm going to go ahead and pick him up as well. That way I can complete a double stack with Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. And because as the old high school coaches used to say, you're one play away from being a starter and increasing your role, kid. I remember hearing that as a freshman in high school and being absolutely terrified. Completely terrified. I remember one time in high school, we were beating the team pretty bad. First game of the year. I was a freshman. Basically just dressed out because I was on JV. And the coach said, "Hey, Will, get ready to go in." He said, "You might as well have told me that." Or basically like I saw it goes, like a deer in the headlights type look. And they just started laughing on the sideline. I could actually hear the offensive coordinator, my quarterback coach, through the guy's earpiece or headset laughing because they were just playing a joke on me. It's hilarious. But it's a lot of pressure. It's a big shock as a freshman, not realizing you're actually going to get into the varsity game, or to be asked to get put into the varsity game for your very first game of the year as a freshman. late in the game like that in some garbage time, but funny story nonetheless. All right, so we finished out the draft here. I did pick up James Proche while I was going over my little story there. So we got Lamar Jackson with the double stack with a James Proche and Mark Andrews. We have a Jared Goff double stack with Amon-Ra St. Brown, DJ Chark. For our running backs, we're looking at Austin Eckler, Rashad Penny, Devin Singletary, Darrell Henderson, and Zamir White, hoping that he wins the starting job eventually throughout the season. We got T. Higgins, who I think will end up beating out Jamar Chase as far as fantasy production goes. Moving on to DeAndre Hopkins. Once he comes back, I think he's just going to automatically demand targets from Kyler Murray in that Arizona offense. Hunter Renfrow, the best kept secret in the NFL as far as fantasy production goes. Jalen Tolbert, the rookie for Dallas, I think he's going to have a big year this year just because of the injuries that are going on with that wide receivers court. And then we got Curtis Samuel, as I said before. High value, I said in the last video I did. Major value for Washington, the true wide receiver 2 for that offense. And then we also got Hunter Henry, one of Mac Jones' favorite targets, and then Austin Hooper, who I think will end up being he'll end up being the second best pass catcher on that offense. Assuming that the Traylon Burks project didn't work out, and it'll just be Robert Woods, Austin Hooper, and then Westbrook Ekrine, if that's how you pronounce his name. Sorry if I butchered it, but nonetheless, not a terrible draft, not the best draft I've had, but it is the last one I'm doing before the start of the season. But again, we're just over a week out. We just got, I think, 9 more days, and then the start of the NFL season is here. So I'm excited, definitely excited, but I can't get here fast enough, that's for sure. All right, so if you haven't already, please subscribe, follow the channel. Again, shout out to Fantasyholics for their support on sharing the links to my videos on their page on Facebook. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. Drop a comment on the videos. Put it in chat, whatever. Tell me how I can do better. Tell me if you agree. For you focusing on this upcoming fantasy season. So thank you guys for watching. Come back and follow the channel for more fantasy content for the NFL season this year. Thanks. And we're back. So this is going to be my top values for week 1 for on the DraftKings side for DFS. So I'm going to be going over every position group, quarterbacks, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends. I won't be going over defense. That's the only one I won't go over, just because basically we're looking to pay down on defense, so we're not really looking for the highest producing defense as far as that is concerned. So when I'm talking about quarterbacks, I'm looking at, the ease that you can stack them with their receivers and pass catchers. I'm also looking at the price point for the roster flexibility that they provide and the capability of them hitting their threshold bonuses. So 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, whether or not they're capable of hitting those bonuses in the DraftKings competitions and contests. So then as far as skill players, I'm looking at who has the best value, who has standalone value without being stacked with their quarterback, especially looking at their price point, so that they can provide a certain amount of flexibility to your roster when you're building up your squad there. So let's get into it. All right. So we're just going to start off with quarterbacks, as I said, and we're going to start relatively cheap here. I'm going to start off with the lowest salary players. My first and number one guy is going to be Trevor Lawrence. So with the news that Laviska Shenault has departed to go to Carolina, I think that just bodes well for Christian Kirk and that offense. Puts a little bit more emphasis on Trevor to trust in Christian Kirk after he got a major contract. Obviously, Travis Etienne is coming back from injury this year. This is going to be Trevor's second year as a starter with a whole different. It's going to be basically a brand new squad, in my opinion, as far as the head coach goes. Obviously, Urban Meyer. I don't have to explain exactly how terrible of a head coach he was, how big of a distraction he was during last season. Basically, everybody should be just happy that Trevor Lawrence didn't sustain an injury during that joke of a season, basically. So another big reason that I like Trevor Lawrence for week one is because of the salary. He's very cheap, very easy to double stack with, especially with the fact that, Christian Kirk is he's going to be under $6,000. He's at $5,100. His top two receivers are under $5,500. That should be plenty to convince you to look at Trevor Lawrence, or at least give him a look for week one. And another thing I like to think about is Jacksonville versus Washington. One quote that I kind of think about is I forget the name of the movie. I think it's called Stand and Deliver. One of the lines that always just gets stuck in my head is a negative times a negative equals a positive. You got two pretty bad teams that can end up in a sloppy shootout. So I think Detroit had a couple games like that last year where obviously they're one of the worst teams in the NFL, but with them, with MCDC being the big motivator that he is, he was able to rally the troops and have comebacks and really push the pace towards the end of games a lot last year. And with Doug Peterson being a real big players coach, I can definitely see Jacksonville doing that. Obviously, Ron Rivera is known to be a players coach as well. I think that could be a sneaky shootout, even though the point total isn't exactly the highest on the slate. Let's see. And again, as far as roster flexibility, not only is it very affordable on the Jacksonville side, it's very affordable on the Washington side as well. One thing I've been talking about is Terry McLaurin, how he's the definitive wide receiver one. I've already talked about Curtis Samuel being a huge value in the last video I've done, being a top value for week one. So with that being said, after you set that as a lineup, you're looking at even if you pick a top defense like the Saints, you're still looking at $6,700, and you haven't picked a tight end yet. So just because of those points there, having a Trevor Lawrence stack, having him as in your roster as a quarterback, really provides a lot of flexibility there. My second quarterback on my list is going to be Derek Carr, if I can get to him. Again, similar reasons as Trevor Lawrence. He's at $5,900. One thing that I wanted to point out, last season, I believe it was through the first 3 games, he was on pace to have a record-setting season as far as passing attempts, passing yardage. He was it looked like a career year for him the first 3 or 4 games, and then I believe that's when all the controversy with Gruden came out. I believe he also got injured. Don't fact check me on that. That's just off the top of my head. Another reason why I like Derek Carr in that spot is because it is one of the highest point total games on the slate against the Chargers. Obviously, you got Justin Herbert on the other side of this game, that who's already proven in the past 2 seasons that he's amongst the top quarterbacks in the NFL going into his 3rd year with that offense with pretty stout weapons in Mike Williams and Keenan Allen. And with Derek Carr, it's fairly easy to build a stack with him. You got Hunter Renfrow, 5,800. Obviously, you're gonna have Devontae Adams, you're gonna have to pay a pretty high price for him. I do not think that Darren Waller is gonna play. I heard Field Yates from ESPN talk about how he thinks it's a contract dispute rather than an injury, so there's still a possibility that he does play if they can figure out his contract. But at $5,400, you can definitely play that instead of Adams and still have a lot of flexibility there, similar to Trevor Lawrence, where you can go after Keenan Allen and Mike Williams, which even if you didn't go after Waller, you're still in pretty decent shape after you pick your defense and everything. If you pay down on defense and pay down on tight end, I'm just trying to find somebody who's decently priced that's actually playable. Evan Ingram, you're still looking at $6,400. That's plenty of salary to have a pretty strong lineup with the rest of your receivers at wide receiver, or rest of your roster for wide receiver and your 2 running backs. So Derek Carr definitely provides a lot of flexibility as far as price point goes for his salary. Another thing that I have on Derek Carr is the probability of him hitting his passing bonus as well. Let's see. He averaged 284 yards a game last season. So, he's 16 yards off from basically averaging a 3-point bonus for passing every game. And assumably, with Devontae Adams coming into the fold, you can only imagine or only assume that it'll put him that much closer to averaging 300 yards every game for the season. So that's another point to put for Derek Carr there. My number 3 pick for week 1 is Jalen Hurts. Let's see. 2nd-year starter. This is basically going to be a make it or break it year for him. You hear a lot of stories about Jalen Hurts being questioned by front office whether or not he's going to be the quarterback of the future for that franchise. I think he's very capable of it. I think he's I'm not saying he's an elite quarterback, but I think he has the potential to be a strong quarterback in the NFL. Definitely can make a playoff run if he had the right tools around him, which the Eagles have done so for getting A.J. Brown from the Titans this offseason. Obviously, they drafted Devonta Smith to help him out with the wide receivers. So I like Jalen Hurts for week 1. One of the reasons why I like him is because of the flexibility of the people around him. Devonta Smith's at $5,500. A.J. Brown being a real wide receiver 1 in the NFL, arguably top 10, especially after his production, when healthy at least, in Tennessee. this is another type of game where, you got two bad teams could end up being in a ugly shootout. Detroit kind of made a name for themselves in doing that last season, getting a lot of garbage time points, force another team to have to throw the ball more late in games. I can definitely see that. Jalen Hurts, another reason why I like him so much for week one, or really any week, as long as his salary doesn't get too out of hand, is his floor for rushing. Let's see. He had 147 rushing attempts last year, averaged 51 yards a game. I mean, what more could you want from a quarterback? And then, let's see. What was his average for passing? He averaged 212 yards passing last year, and his only main targets were Dallas Goedert and Devonta Smith. So we're assuming that that's going to be higher this year with the addition of A.J. Brown. He may, I doubt he'll actually average more than 250, 260s. I doubt he will make it there week in and week out. But for week one specifically, against the Detroit Lions, specifically for week one and the Detroit Lions, really the only threat on the defense side of the ball, outside of the number one draft pick, Hutchinson, is Jeff Okudah, who's coming back. I believe he's coming back from injury. I may be wrong on that, but nonetheless, you have Okudah, who I think his main attention is going to be focusing on A.J. Brown, leaving Devonta Smith not open, but with a more manageable matchup as far as cornerbacks go. So if you're building rosters with building stacks with Jalen Hurts, I personally like building it with Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert, just because of the flexibility and with the fact that I think they're going to be putting Okudah on A.J. Brown, leaving Devonta Smith and Dallas Goedert to get the most target share, being that A.J. Brown is going to be game planned out of the game on the Detroit side of the ball. And again, I doubt, because of his floor with his legs, the way that he can run the ball, he's going to have a high floor, and he's going to have the capability, not saying he will, but he has the capability of getting you a double bonus, 300 yards passing, 100 yards rushing, depending on how that Detroit defense plays him, whether they're going to try and make him force the ball or whatever. So he definitely has a chance to get either one. Unlikely, but possible that he gets both with his ability to run. Now we're getting into the elite quarterbacks here, kind of like that upper tier. So my next guy is Kyler Murray at $7,200. He's in one of the highest point total games, playing against the Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes' offense. Obviously, Kansas City's going to be without Tyreek Hill, but they've picked up Juju Smith-Schuster, who's going to be their lead pass catcher. And you can only assume that it's just going to be an air raid type game between both squads. Kyler Murray, one of the more efficient passers in the NFL already. I think this is second or third season, I believe. Averages 261 yards a game passing, and this year he doesn't have two running backs in the backfield that split carries, so we can only think that number could go up with another year under his belt and with the departure of Chase Edmonds. So I think they're going to throw the ball downfield a little bit more. He also has the ability to get you some points with his feet. He rushed for 5 touchdowns last year. I think you'll probably see much the same, if not a little bit more, depending on if he's going to play it safe this year. Obviously, he's had some history with injuries in previous seasons. A lot of people contributed to his size, but nonetheless, you may see much the same as far as rushing touchdowns go. He's going to be without DeAndre Hopkins this first 6 games, I believe. So we're looking at Rondale Moore, Hollywood Brown, as far as stacking him with them. They're relatively affordable. They're not too highly priced, which is good. The highest priced guys, Marquise Brown at $6,200, Rondale Moore, who I've had in as a value pick in a previous video, at $4,000. And then on the flip side of that, it's going to be relatively easy to have a bring back player as well. You got their best pass catcher, assumingly best pass catcher, in Juju Smith at $5,200. Highly affordable. Being that it's one of the higher total games of of Week 1. So that's some of the biggest reasons why I like Kyler Murray in that spot, regardless of a higher price point at $7,200. And because of the high point total for this game, I would like to assume that Marquise Brown is going to be getting his 100-yard bonus. It's a high probability that Kyler Murray is going to go throw for over 300 yards as well. And then if you use a bring back player for this game, either Juju Smith-Schuster has a good possibility of capturing the 100-yard bonus as well. And if you want to pay up, you can for Travis Kelce. You just have to find some more value picks further down in your flex position, or just pay down on the defensive side of the ball as well. My last pick for value, my last quarterback pick for Week 1 is Lamar Jackson. I know I mentioned James Proche in a previous video as a guy I like because of the value he can bring at his price point at $3,300. Rashad Bateman as well. And if you want, you can go Duvernay. I tend to lean towards James Proche. And obviously, you got Mark Andrews, one of the top tight ends in the NFL. Another main reason that I like Lamar for Week 1 is right now he's in a contract dispute, or contract negotiations, rather, heading into Week 1. Both Lamar and the team have both said that they hope to get it figured out by the first game. Obviously, time is ticking. We've got nearly 2 weeks, just under 2 weeks, before game time for Lamar Jackson to figure out his contract dispute. If they don't figure it out, then this is going to be a contract year, and he's going to be doing everything in his power to win MVP, because he's actually the one that's going to be negotiating his contract. He doesn't have an agent. So if he doesn't figure it out, that bodes even better for Lamar Jackson in Week 1. He averages 240 yards a game last season, averaged 63 yards a game last season as well, and he didn't even play all 16 games. He only played 12, so he missed quite a few games last year, most in his career so far. Obviously, he's not overly efficient. He can kind of get reckless as far as throwing the ball. A lot of that can be contributed to drops on Hollywood Brown's part, but I think this season they're going to be a lot more run heavy. I think once Gus Edwards is healthy, once J.K. Dobbins is healthy, you're going to see a lot more option, RPO, even for the NFL, for Lamar Jackson to use his legs. At the $7,300 price point, he doesn't exactly cut off the entire tier of players to pick from. His pass catchers are relatively affordable. Even if you go after Mark Andrews, who's the highest paid, highest salaried tight end on the slate, I believe. Yeah, he is. By $200. So, and it's going to be a very, very condensed target tree for the pass catchers for the Baltimore Ravens. It's mainly going to be Andrews. It's mainly going to be Bateman. I think the next guy in line is going to be Proche. And then on the flip side of that game, you got the New York Jets, who are really, really affordable to stack with as well in that game. You got Elijah Moore, who's assuming to be the number one receiver for that offense. Obviously, Joe Flacco is going to be starting. A Super Bowl winning veteran is going to be playing against Lamar, so highly capable of putting up enough numbers to make him a viable fantasy pick for week 1. Again, going back to Lamar, he definitely has a high floor with his rushing ability, has the capability of throwing for 300 yards and running for 100 yards, getting you to double bonus, another 6 points that 90% of the NFL can't do outside of maybe a Jalen Hurts or Josh Allen in the NFL right now. To start off my top picks for running backs for week 1 for DFS on DraftKings, my first guy is going to be Travis Etienne Jr. This is basically going to be his rookie season in the NFL. Obviously, he was out with a Liz Frank injury last season during, to call it what it is, tumultuous season for the Jacksonville Jaguars with Urban Meyer being there. But either way, different season, a lot better head coach with Doug Peterson. Definitely has the capability of getting a double bonus here with Trevor Lawrence playing against the Washington defense. He has a chemistry with Trevor Lawrence already, playing with them in college, winning a national championship together. Because of that chemistry, I think it's going to be kind of a instinctual, type of connection between the two this season. And even if you don't stack Travis Etienne with Trevor Lawrence, he definitely has standalone value as well, even if you wanted to just put him in to fill out a roster. Another reason why I like Travis Etienne for week 1 specifically is because I'm of the belief that this is the cheapest you'll see him all season. You won't see him under $6,000 going forward. I think he's definitely going to get at least 100 yards rushing, if not both 100 yards rushing and receiving, giving you that 6-point bonus, not including any kind of touchdown equity during this first week. My second pick for the running backs, and you guys might actually go, well, duh, that's obvious, is Aaron Jones. Now, obviously, this guy here can win you a tournament just by his performance alone. We saw it in week 2 last year, 41.5 points for fantasy. His ability to catch the ball out of the backfield, his ability to line up in the slot is the reason why I like him so much at this price point against Minnesota. And being so early in the season, before the rest of the pass-catching core get the reps that Aaron Rodgers would feel comfortable with to throw the younger guys the ball. I think he's just going to be able to pick up a bigger role this season as far as being a receiver, as well as the fact that A.J. Dillon was able to show that he is more than capable of manning the backfield, providing a lot more of a lot more roster flexibility in real life rather than fantasy. So, again, I like Aaron Jones there in that spot because of the weak wide receiver core. He had an average of 5 targets just about last season as a receiver, I believe, if I ran the numbers correctly. And another obvious reason, he's playing with Aaron Rodgers. Playing with Aaron Rodgers any given time, the reigning MVP, 2-time MVP, any guy that plays with Aaron Rodgers has massive value if Aaron Rodgers trusts him. Obviously, he's had enough time with Aaron Rodgers to gain his trust, and I believe Rodgers is going to be leaning on Aaron Jones a lot this season because of how young that receiving corps is. My next guy on the list is James Conner. Again, this is going to be one of the highest point total games of the slate. Is later in the day, so you can still have some player minutes remaining in your roster by picking James Conner. Arizona, Cliff Kingsbury has been known to be to go to the run game once he's inside the goal line. He's also basically the true starter in this offense. Last year he was splitting carries with Chase Edmonds. This year, Chase Edmonds got traded and sent to Miami, and James Conner is only looking to benefit from that this season. So all these numbers here are looking to have a bit of an uptick to it. Let's see. He had 206 attempts last year. Very, very, very easily can make it to 300 attempts this year. 16 touchdowns. I think that's going to go up, being that Chase Edmonds is gone. I think he'll get about the same amount of targets in the receiving game. They still got, I believe, Darrell Williams, if I remember correctly, in the backfield to kind of help out with the passing game on that. Yes, Darrell Williams. So I think he'll be the primary pass catching back, not to the extent that Chase Edmonds was, but I think he will still take some targets. So you may see an uptick in targets this season for him, but specifically for Week 1, he's gonna be the main guy in the backfield for the Arizona Cardinals. Another reason why I like James Conner is that because it's a high point total game, because Patrick Mahomes is going to throw the ball 5,000 times in this game, Arizona is going to have to as well. But as I mentioned before, once they get inside the goal line, they like to pound the ball in. They like to use James Conner inside the red zone, inside the goal line, to run the ball into the end zone. And so to kind of be contrarian, to pivot off those Kyler stacks, James Conner is probably the way to do it. Again, you may have to pay a little bit more, but if you're not picking Kyler Murray, then you're saving $200 anyway. So I think that's a very good way to get off the Kyler Murray stacks with Marquise Brown and AJ Green and all those guys in that stacked receiving core. My next guy is Alvin Kamara. Now, this is where the picks start becoming a little bit more obvious. Like, you guys are probably going to be like, well, duh, yeah, everybody knows to pick Alvin Kamara. Well, the reason why I'm kind of going over these guys is, typically you want to be able to stack your players and everything, and you want to find the standalone value. Well, Alvin Kamara has his own standalone value, also the next guy. But the difference that he has than James Conner is that he's already established as a pass-catching running back. James Conner, his go-to is to pound the ball in between the tackles. That's what he's done his whole career, basically. Alvin Kamara, ever since he was playing with Drew Brees, he's proven that he's a well-established pass catcher. He's a very good runner as well, especially out in space. Playing against a really bad defense for the Atlanta Falcons, I think he's in a good position to have a big game for Week 1. He already has chemistry with Jameis Winston if he does start. I know there's a possibility that Andy Dalton could take the starting position, but I think it's definitely going to be Jameis, J-Bones for Week 1. But Alvin Kamara, he's able to not only produce both rushing and receiving. He doesn't really even need to score the touchdowns to make him a viable fantasy option for DFS. Not to the extent that Christian McCaffrey can, but he's definitely capable of putting up the yardage necessary to give you a big fantasy day. Let's see here. And if you did want to stack them, now I'm doing these top picks specifically for standalone value, but if you wanted to build a stack around that New Orleans offense, you can, and it's very affordable. Obviously, Alvin Kamara is the most expensive guy. If you believe Michael Thomas is just going to come back after 2 years of not playing and just be the same guy that he was, he's very affordable at $5,700. The next guy in line, I believe, is Chris Alave, the number 1 draft pick, or the first-round draft pick, rather, for the New Orleans. And then on the flip side of that, their best pass catcher on the Atlanta side of the ball, Kyle Pitts, who's also super, super duper affordable, $5,700. And again, if you wanted to pair up Jameis, it's $53. You're not going to find a much better value as far as stacks go if you wanted to go that route with Alvin Kamara. He could have easily been a top pick for the quarterbacks, but because I like the other guys I mentioned earlier, I think Kamara is probably better as a standalone value rather than building a stack around him and Jameis Winston. And my last guy, and again, I'm going to reiterate the standalone value. It's Austin Eckler. So, one of the biggest reasons, to list off some big reasons why I'm going with Austin Eckler. Highest point total game, one of the highest point total games on the slate. They're playing at home in Los Angeles in that massive stadium. Also, to keep in mind is the fact that Isaiah Spiller suffered an injury, and I think he's actually going to be out for Week 1, considered week to week still. So, with that being said, even bigger emphasis on Austin Eckler getting his lion's share of the snaps for that game. He's highly, highly capable of getting a double bonus. He averaged 40 yards a game receiving, 56 yards rushing. With a high point total game like this, he's easily capable of hitting one of those bonuses, if not both. Obviously, it's more likely for him to get the rushing bonus if they're trying to, chew down the clock later in the game. Obviously, he went wild with touchdowns last year, scoring 20 of them. in last season. Obviously, you can't assume that he's going to have that type of touchdown production this year with that offense, but he's at least going to get one, barring injury. To me, there's no way he doesn't score one, probably two in this game. And another reason, and the last reason I like Austin Eckler is you can pivot off the Derek Carr and the Justin Herbert stacks. So all these guys are going to be going after Justin Herbert, going to be going after Derek Carr, Mike Williams, Keenan Allen, Devonta Smith even. They're just going to be flocking to it because it's the highest point total game. They know they're going to be throwing the ball. So you're going to have a lot of people building this type of stack here. And in order to be different, in order to possibly, to get the most leverage on that game is Austin Eckler. And then pick him and then build a stack elsewhere that can have similar, if not better, production, and you can save with another game where you don't have to pay the premium for Justin Herbert at 7,600 or pay $7K basically for the best pass catchers on that team. So he's a good way to pivot from Herbert double stacks or even Derek Carr double stacks as well. So Austin Eckler is the last guy on my top picks for running backs for Week 1 DFS on DraftKings. Looking at top values for the wide receiver position for Week 1 DFS on DraftKings, starting off with Christian Kirk at $5,100. To start off with, this man got a big contract during the offseason, 4 years, $72 million. Jacksonville Jaguars made a pretty big investment in this guy to become a top weapon for this offense with the new head coach, Doug Peterson, second-year starter, Trevor Lawrence. I think it's going to be a quick-paced offense. I think Christian Kirk's going to fit in really well with them. The type of game it's going to be, I feel like it's going to be two poor teams in the NFL, as I mentioned, with Trevor Lawrence and Travis Etienne earlier in the top values. He had 6 targets a game last season. That will easily be higher in this offense with Trevor Lawrence. He will be the number one guy. He won't be behind DeAndre Hopkins. He won't be behind A.J. Green. He will be the number one guy this year, especially at his price point at $5,100. He definitely provides you a lot of roster flexibility, gives you really good standalone value for your roster builds at $5,100. Doesn't break the bank. It's actually below the average player price, so it definitely gives you more options to spend money elsewhere for your roster build for Week 1. The next guy for top picks for wide receivers is Devonta Smith. Second season in this Philadelphia offense, second year playing with Jalen Hurts. I think it's safe to assume that he is Jalen Hurts' favorite target, being that he's just been able to develop a chemistry with Jalen. This is his second season, so I believe he's going to take a major jump in production. Obviously, there's a question of how much A.J. Brown is going to take away from his targets, but I'm of the belief that A.J. Brown's going to be the focal point of defenses to make sure, that he doesn't get his targets, that he doesn't get the production in that offense, and that's going to leave Devonta Smith more open, more opportunities to give you more production in fantasy. I also believe that with Jalen Hurts, a lot of people are of the belief that this is going to be a contract year for him. So being that it might be a contract year for Jalen Hurts, he's more inclined to throw the ball, prove that he is worth that he's worth being the franchise quarterback for the Philadelphia Eagles. And not only do I think that not only do I think the passing volume is going to increase, I believe that you'll see Devonta Smith hitting more vertical routes, being more open with the addition of A.J. Brown, being a more efficient receiver altogether this season. And the last point is his price point here at $5,500, leaving you a lot of at the $5,500 price point, he's going to leave you a lot of flexibility to build a pretty good roster around him, and has massive standalone value at the wide receiver position at $5,500. My number 3 receiver for top picks for week 1 is Hollywood Brown at $6,200. He is in one of the highest point total games in week 1. DeAndre Hopkins is out for 6 games, I believe, meaning that Marquise Brown is going to be the surefire wide receiver 1 for the Arizona Cardinals offense. Again, highest point total game on the slate. He's moderately priced at $6,200. Doesn't break the bank as far as building a roster around him. Last season, I believe last season for the Baltimore Ravens, he averaged about 6 or 7 targets per game. I think that's easily going to be at least 8 targets a game. He averaged about 7 or 8 targets with the Baltimore Ravens. Easily going to be 8 or 9, if not double digits, with DeAndre Hopkins being out. There is a history between Marquise Brown and Kyler Murray being college teammates. And with having chemistry much like Travis Etienne and Trevor Lawrence, I think there's going to be a lot of instincts that come into play as far as when these two are on the field, which only is going to be beneficial to Marquise Brown and those who have him in their lineups. My number 4 wide receiver pick for week 1 is Terry McLaurin. He's the number 1 wide receiver for the Washington Commanders. Surefire top target for Carson Wentz this year. Very slim and shallow wide receiver room. J.D. McKissick and Curtis Samuel, who are high value. Curtis Samuel, that I've mentioned in previous videos that he is going to be a massive sleeper this season. I think that Terry McLaurin's in line to see a massive progression in touchdowns this year with a lot better quarterback. Another year of Ron Rivera getting the team to where he wants it. I think it's going to be another possibility of having a high-scoring game between two not-so-great teams in the NFL. Commands a huge chunk of the targets for this offense. Averages about 7 to 8 targets a game. I think that's only going to go higher with Carson Wentz there as well. Another last point I want to make is my guy got paid this year. Big contract. I don't think they listed it. I have it written down. My guy got paid this year. Follow the money. 3 years, $68.2 million contract for Terry McLaurin to be the number 1 wide receiver of the future for the Washington Commanders. So I think he definitely has standalone value. If you want to have him as a bring-back player for the very cheap and affordable Jacksonville Jaguar stack, you can do that as well. Definitely like Terry McLaurin as my number 2 pick for wide receivers for week 1. My number 1 pick for wide receiver as a standalone value is Mike Williams for the Los Angeles Chargers. Mike Williams is going to be a part of one of the highest point total games of the slate against the Las Vegas Raiders. Mike Williams signed a big contract this offseason for 3 years, $60 million. I think this season is going to be the first where you see Keenan Allen have a bit of regression in his ability, getting up there in age. I think you'll also see him command a big target share this year. I don't think it's outside the realm of possibility that you'll see Mike Williams have 7 or 8 plus targets for week 1. And again, he's playing with one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL, a young quarterback in the NFL, and Justin Herbert, who I think will begin to use Mike Williams a whole lot more this season now that they've made the financial investment in him to be their receiver going forward, now that Keenan Allen's getting up there in age. So Mike Williams, big standalone value at $6,600. At $6,600 for the Los Angeles Chargers for a high point total game for week 1. So that's all of the wide receiver top picks I had. And moving on to tight ends. I'm only going to do 3 tight ends for this just because it's kind of, I feel like tight ends are more about picking for value rather than for massive production outside of, your Mark Andrews, Travis Kelce, Kittle, Kyle Pitts. So this is going to be kind of similar to the value picks just for tight ends though. But these are also going to be guys who have standalone value that I think can outproduce their salary point. So to start off with, for tight ends, for my top picks for week 1, we're looking at Mo Alley-Cox for the Indianapolis Colts. He had a really good preseason for the Indianapolis Colts. Upgrade at quarterback with Matt Ryan. He's a big red zone target for them once they get inside for whenever they don't use Jonathan Taylor. Now, obviously, they're going to be more. Obviously, the Colts are going to be more inclined to use Taylor inside the red zone, but in a few cases, they may be able to utilize him, or in a few cases, they might be able to use Mo Alley-Cox in a lot of play action packages inside the red zone. They're also looking at a very slim pass catching room as well. They only have Michael Pittman that I can think of for as a really well established pass catcher. They're also playing against a Houston defense that is they're playing against a very poor Houston defense, which bodes well for Indianapolis and Mo Alley-Cox at a $3,400 standalone price point. My next top tight end pick for week 1 is going to be Hunter Henry at a $3,800 price point, playing against the Miami Dolphins. Hunter Henry's already established himself as a top target for Mac Jones. He's a big red zone target, has had a really good preseason as well. I think they're going to pick up where they left off last season. Obviously, first season for Mac Jones, kind of easing into the NFL a little bit, showed glimpses of greatness during his rookie year under Bill Belichick, and along with that, along with the growth that Mac Jones had, you saw that in Hunter Henry's production for fantasy. I believe that Hunter Henry, matched up with the Miami Dolphins linebackers, has a very good chance to be a viable pass catcher for week 1 against that Miami defense. My top pick for tight ends for week 1 DFS on DraftKings is TJ Hawkinson. I feel like this is going to be one of those games that have the potential to shoot out just because of the Detroit Lions' tendency to get a lot of garbage time touchdowns, a lot of garbage time receptions, yardage. That helps out with fantasy, which helps out with fantasy owners. I believe that he had TJ Hawkinson averaged about 7 targets a game last season, which I think that's only going to increase with the more he's worked with Jared Goff leading up to week 1. He had double-digit fantasy weeks every week except for 4 weeks, I believe it was. 1, 2, 3, 4. So in all the games that he did play in, which were 12, so he played in 12 games and he only missed out on double-digit fantasy days 4 out of the 12 games. And he was close on one of them at 8.2. So more times than not, he's going to have a double-digit fantasy point day for you in your roster. It's another year under MCDC, Dan Campbell for the Detroit Lions. They also picked up his 5th-year option on his contract, which bodes well for him and the organization's belief that he is a good, that he is the tight end of the franchise, which is only going to command more targets, more production from him for fantasy owners. And again, playing against a less than stellar secondary for the Philadelphia Eagles, I think TJ Hawkinson bodes well as a standalone value for week 1 DFS on DraftKings. All right, so I just went over my top picks for quarterbacks, my top picks for tight ends for week 1 DFS on DraftKings. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, follow the channel. Again, shout out to Fantasyholics for their support on sharing the links to my videos on their page on Facebook. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. Drop a comment on the videos. Put it in chat, whatever. Tell me how I can do better. Tell me if you agree. Who's your favorite picks at each position for week 1? Tell me what you think for week 1. Who are you focusing on this upcoming fantasy season? So thank you guys for watching. Come back and follow the channel for more fantasy content for the NFL season this year. Thanks. All right, so I just went over my top picks for quarterbacks, my top picks for running backs, my top picks for wide receivers, and my top picks for tight ends for week 1 DFS on DraftKings. So if you haven't already, please subscribe, follow the channel. Again, shout out to Fantasyholics for their support on sharing the links to my videos on their page on Facebook. I appreciate you guys for doing that. Please subscribe to the YouTube channel. Please subscribe to Twitch. Follow me on Twitter. Drop a comment on the videos. Put it in chat, whatever. Tell me how I can do better. Tell me if you agree. Who's your favorite picks at each position for week 1? Tell me what you think for week 1. Who are you focusing on this upcoming fantasy season? So thank you guys for watching. Come back and follow the channel for more fantasy content for the NFL season this year. Thanks.